pleasure to introduce York City Mayor Michael Helfrich back to the Rotary Club. He was last year as candidate for Mayor Michael Helfrich, so we're welcoming back for the first time officially as mayor. Some of you may know that Michael was elected to council for the first time in 2011 until November of this past year when he was elected mayor, having served as vice president of council and president of council during that time. And some of you may also know that Michael served as the river keeper for the lower Susquehanna River prior to becoming mayor. This is a job in which he worked across municipal borders, across state lines, to do the tough work of watershed protection for the Susquehanna River, which of course includes one of the major tributaries to the Susquehanna River, the mighty Dolores Creek, which we know is near and dear to Michael's heart and many of our hearts. So for those of you who read religiously the minutes of city council meetings, I see lots of people nodding their heads, you are well aware that Michael's administration has made as a priority economic development in the city of York, even in the short time since Michael became mayor. In doing so, he's engaged Downtown Inc., the York County Economic Alliance, and other partners in new collaborations to better leverage the economic development resources we share as a community, with the goal of better serving our community and fostering greater shared prosperity. Today, Mayor Helfrich will discuss how his administration and the YCEA and other partners are working together on an economic development partnership that will assist the City of York with development and implementation of workforce development initiatives, including working collaboratively with public and private sector leaders to develop new strategies aimed at producing a workforce equipped with the skills and competencies essential for satisfying the needs of area employers. And of course, much more, and that will be the topic of Michael's talk today. So thank you, Mayor, for being here with us, and join me in welcoming York City Mayor Michael Helfrich.
Honestly, didn't know I was going to squeeze all that into 15 minutes. Thank you all for having me here, and it's wonderful to see the JROTC folks again today. I got to greet them and thank them individually on Monday for their service. And also, I'm glad I got new advice from Ms. Kira. Lock my door for half the day and keep all the people out of my office so I can actually get something done. I like it. Yeah, I wanted to speak today a little bit about economic development, but you can't talk about economic development in the city of York without also talking about community development. So there'll be some of that in here. But part of my motivation is my love of history for the city, and or the history of the city. And I look back and I think of what is a prosperous York City, because we all have to admit that right now we're not at our peak. We've had a city that has produced multiple global corporations and prosperity and wealth for almost all within our boundaries. That was one of my favorite periods of our history, the 1870s to 1920s period, you know. But what do we have left of that period? What do we have left of the real influx of energy, the creativity, what created the wealth for our city? And I live 10 feet from my property, and I have Densply. They're right next to my house. Densply is one of the last, and I always ask my fellow historians and anyone else to correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at Densply, I see one of those last 1890s, 1910 companies that went really global, really strong. You know, of course, we had York International, we had Pennsylvania Agricultural Works that ended up being the Farquhar Company, York Safe and Locks. We had all these, and but due to different circumstances, we lost those. What's remaining? We have the architecture of the city. When I walk around the city and look at the architecture, I see, oh, 1890s, 1900, 1910. Why do we have all this beautiful stuff? Because we created wealth in the city of York for the people of the city. How did we do that? We did that by exporting things. We can all trade money in this room, and we're not going to get richer. We're just going to keep trading money around. It's when we export things. That's when we get richer. So there are two levels of what we look at when we're looking at economic development, and that's on the street. How do we make us individually better, wealthier? How do we improve our city? And then we look at the global. So the economic development on the street, most of us call community development. How do we make sure that people feel good about where they are? Can they pay their bills? Do they have jobs? Can we get the unemployment rate in the city of York down to the rest of York County? This is where we look at on the street level. And I'm glad that Silas had talked a little bit about some of our partnerships. Workforce development is a huge partnership that we are working on with the York County Economic Alliance, and hopefully many of you here in this room. What we need to do to really improve York City and the lives of the people in York City, and we all know this, but we have to make it happen. We need to know exactly what is needed in our surrounding manufacturing community and train one by one the individuals to have those skills. We've all known that for a long time. But we haven't done it in a way that really gets to where the people are. We haven't set up training in my corner of the city on West Princess Street. We have the idea that if we set up things, they will come. But that's really not generally the way that it works when people have been impoverished for decades, generations and generations, when people see violence outside their door, when they're mentally just burdened with survival. They're not going to come just because we're teaching a course over here or over there. We actually have to reach into the community, and that's what our plan is. We're working with, right now, Salem Square is working with Johnson Controls to open up HVAC training, and we're hoping to get a welding training center right over there, someplace that's walkable, right for the people in my neighborhood. 45% of the people in my neighborhood, on the west side of the city, they don't have cars. So to get anywhere, even to get groceries, is a burden. Most of us, if we run out of milk, okay, let's go get milk. But if you're sitting on West College, where I live, and you have to go get milk, now you're like, okay, I either have to pay for a taxi, or I have to go bum a ride if I can, or, and all these burdens day after day also equate to the burden of trying to get job training or to get education. It's one more layer of a very complex and burdensome life. So the more that we can do to take that off, the better off they will be, and we will all be. So getting Johnson Controls to create a trade school that is walkable. They say they have 300 jobs right now for HVAC if we can get people trained. I talked to a workforce developer at BAE. They said, I will hire 300 welders right now. Now my mission is to now explain to these folks in my community that if I can get you into this couple of months of training, you will be making more than the mayor very shortly. It's a fact. It's a fact. But let's expand, because often when I'm discussing these things, I even can't find the line between community development and economic development. When is workforce development top down and when is it bottom up? When do I have Shabosky Buffalo working on it from the community side, and when am I bringing Kevin in and all his team to work on it from the top down? It all blends together. But and I apologize right now for those that were at the debate. You will hear some of the same things I said then, because I'm implementing what I ran on. But we are working right now with the York County Economic Alliance to broaden our reach, to broaden our resources to do economic development in the city. We have come a long way. Is Jack in the room? Jack K in the room?
No.
No.
Okay. we've come a long way from Jack working with a team in the city government and building up economic development, and through Eric and through Kevin and Chilbosky Buffalo. Believe it or not, we've got a great problem in the city. We've got too many people knocking on our door. It is actually a great problem. And I give credit where credit is due. Mayor Bracy, Mayor Brenner, Kevin, Daryl Alderson, folks have worked together to build up the reputation of York as a place to invest in. But at the same time, we've been kind of falling behind on our ability to catch all that interest. So I have asked the York County Economic Alliance to join with us, and we will be, with the approval of City Council, we will be embedding 2 employees within the York County Economic Alliance to handle our economic development. That doesn't mean that they're doing it on their own. They're still going to be kind of under our direction. But instead of sitting in City Hall and saying, hey, somebody over at Economic Alliance, can you help us with this project? Because I've got 10 other phone calls coming in right now and I really need your help on this. They can actually say, hey, I caught this one over here. David, this is kind of your area. Can you take this? Lauren, can you take this? Kim, can you take this? And you can actually smoothly hand off different projects or different specifics, expertise. You know, somebody needs funding. Okay, you go straight down this line. Before, or actually today, we have about 1.5 employees in the city of York trying to be everything to everybody all the time. From what is it? From soup to nuts? You know, trying to escort them in and then take them the whole way through actually a ribbon cutting. And it's just not an effective way to do things, particularly when you have within the city the York County Economic Alliance and 24 employees with all that expertise. So I'm very excited, and I'm hoping for a positive vote come next Tuesday that we will be creating a new partnership with the York County Economic Alliance. Isn't this convenient that my partners are sitting right here in front of me, so all I have to do is point at them. And we also are creating a new partnership with Downtown Inc. And was that your idea? Whose idea was it? Sure, we're going to give it to him. But Downtown Inc., as many of you know, has worked in the downtown. And they've had very successful work there. We have come to an agreement. I think I signed it. Did you get it yet?
I think you're close.
I think I'm close to signing it. I'm going to hassle you down for another couple $1,000s after this free publicity. But they are now going to work on the Market Street corridor. So they're now reaching out. They're going to be reaching out to businesses that historically did not get the benefit of Downtown Inc.'s expertise, their business retention, their business development efforts. As many of you know, certainly I do as a person who was in nonprofits for a long time, you get into things because you love them, not because you like doing paperwork or reporting to the IRS. And these are skills that we see over and over again. Companies or dreamers kind of bail out because of the burdens of really running a business. And this is something that I know that Downtown Inc. has been able to help some with. Some folks, you're going to have businesses that fail, but some folks, Downtown Inc. has really been able to help. And now they are going to take that out into East Market Street and West Market Street. For me personally, this is huge because of the diversity that we have in our businesses that have not been necessarily getting expertise. The most expensive market to do business in the city is downtown. So people with capital, they're generally the ones downtown. But now they're going to be helping people that have taken a leap into business, people that, I'll be honest, people that look less like most of us in this room. So we've got some great places. We've got Jamaican places. We've got Asian stores. We've got African American stores. We've got all these other folks that have not been getting the help from Downtown Inc. So we're going to start on Market Street. That works really well. We're going on George Street. And pretty soon it's going to be All Town Inc., not Downtown Inc. So get your board ready for that. Finally, I want to take us back to my vision, back to history, the 1880s. I think we're in the 1880s, 1890s era right now. We've got a lot of people that are popping up and saying, "I've got a good idea. I want to make something of this. And I want to help York while I do it." For the last approximately 40 years, our economic development has been, hey, bring your business to York and give us some paychecks. And that results in the rest of that wealth going out. But these people that have ideas here in York, they're the ones that are going to be the A.B. Farquhars, the 4A Lauxes. They're going to be creating wealth for everybody. To do that, we need to be a lot more organized, we need to work together, we need to take advantage of a 21st century future. That's something I don't think we've done a good enough job yet at. So I have, while it was a little tough, we have employed what is called an ecosystem builder. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I see one hand back there, two hands. Okay, great. So there is a new economic science called ecosystem building. And what it really is, it's like kind of the dating game for businesses. How do you really create new businesses? How do you create new spin-offs? How is Silicon Valley keep coming up? It's like they've got a lot of the same people working together, but new businesses keep popping up. Because they're kind of matchmaking. They're getting together, and it's an environment where people have beers together, and they're like, hey, I had this idea for such and such. And the other guy says, oh yeah, I had this idea for such and such, and it's kind of like what you're doing. And then next thing you know, there's a new company. I feel like, and maybe the manufacturers and the business people in this room can tell me differently, but I feel like there's been a lot of silos in York. A lot of companies that are growing and doing well, but not a lot of working together saying, hey, what you're doing over here would really mesh well. Let's join together and build a brand new company. Or somebody that's maybe not up in the upper echelon of the ranks and is an engineer over here and gets together with somebody over here and says, hey, it's time for me to build a new company, build new wealth. This is what ecosystem builders do. They help develop, first of all, there's going to be a young man named Skylar Yost coming knocking on your door if you have a company in York, or actually Lancaster or Harrisburg too, because our future is regional. It's not just York City, and it's not just York County. He's going to be asking for information. One of the favorite questions he asks, from my point of view, is, what do you export and how much do you make off of exports? Again, 1880s to 1920s, even before the York Plan, which I know it's real exciting to talk about the York Plan right now, but before that, we made our wealth by exporting. So we want to know what people are exporting. I want to be able to, I've been invited to Germany and Israel so far to go and do trade missions. I want to be able to go over to Germany and Israel and say, hey, this is what we're doing over here. Would you like any of our companies that are doing this, this, and this over here? And by the way, we've got room for your companies over here. Come on over. You know, let's do business exchanges. Was anybody part of the business exchanges in the 1990s, 1980s? There were a couple. Nope. Uh-oh. We got to work a lot harder. There are opportunities. There are companies that want to come to York right now. This is the second half of ecosystem building. It's not just about getting us talking to each other, but it's about showcasing what we are and getting out there. Do you know what the biggest question in most political researchers' minds and business researchers' minds is right now? How did we lose blue-collar workers, and how do we get them back? York County is under a national microscope right now. Whether, I don't know if you knew this, but we are. Everybody wants to know how a whole bunch of blue-collar workers became Trump country. They want to know that. And that's not a political thing. That's a, how did we go from people that were so deeply involved in unions and deeply involved in the Democratic Party, how did they switch over here? And then they want to know, how can we be part of that? How can we build on that? What are their questions, and what are the answers to their questions? And it's not just politicos that want to know. The tech companies want to know this. Anybody that wants to be selling us product wants to know what the heck is going through their heads. And so there are companies that have been contacting me saying, we want to understand York. And this is part of ecosystem building. Reaching out to these companies and saying, well, hold on, I'm getting sidetracked. There's another part of this. Anybody ever hear of complexity economics? Were you an economics major? You're raising your hand, okay. Here's another really cool thing that the ecosystem builder is going to be working on. And that is actually figuring out what our assets are here in York. Most people say, okay, you've got this kind of company over here, you've got this kind of company over here. So York is, you know, I'm very proud to say we're 20% manufacturing, right? Right? Yes? Am I losing y'all? I'm sorry. I can get more excited about other topics, but this one, this is our future. Right now, we can talk about what we are on a broad scale, but we don't know the skill sets of our workers. We don't talk about that. How many welders do we have? How many precision welders do we have? How many, how many different categories of folks do we have? This is part of complexity economics. When you have a map of exactly what your workers' skills are, you have the ability to recruit people, recruit other companies that, again, I want to build companies in the city, but we can also recruit people by showing them, look, we have 100 manufactured, or we have 100 skilled precision welders that are currently making this type of product, televisions. What in the new economy, what in the 21st century world are we prepared to make? What can we do to bring you to our city, to our county? Once we have that kind of information, it's almost like taking it's having a complete analysis and being able to show, it's a difference between saying, look at my house, don't you want to buy my house? And saying, look, these are all the amenities that we have. These are all the things we can offer. This is the workforce that we can offer you. Understanding the workforce is the next step. We've had years and years of the what do I want to say? We've had years and years where we've had high levels of unemployment. Now we have low levels of unemployment. The real choke point, thank you, that's what I was trying to think of. The real choke point now is what skilled labor can we offer? But very few people are out there telling companies, hey, this is what we have to offer. I am very excited about positioning York in the 21st century. We haven't done it yet. We really haven't. We've gone around and we've fished for businesses, but the last time we really, really extended our hands into the global market was over 50 years ago. We as a community, and I will wrap up with the York plan, the last time we really said we are all going to work together and we are going to reach new levels, it was back in the late 1930s and 1940s. I'm really begging you to not just listen to my poor attempt, my 10-minute poor attempt at trying to explain what we're getting into, but we've got videos that we're putting out. We've got, we're speaking to every group that we can to understand that we have an opportunity that has not existed in a long time. We have new technologies coming out. Anybody pick up your phone. The world has changed, and the world is changing so fast. And other than a few companies in York, we're not jumping on it. We are not there. I want to put us in the position to jump into the 21st century. There are 4 technologies. I can't believe that you haven't signaled me yet.
Several times.
Oh, you have? I told Di that there's no way I can talk with it for less than 30 minutes unless somebody signals me. The 21st century, at least the beginning of the 21st century, is not hard to figure out. The 21st century is going to be big data. The 21st century is going to be artificial intelligence. The 21st century is going to be the Internet of Things, that phone that can control things. You can turn your lights on and off from Australia. And the 21st century is going to be robotics. Those are the 4 things of the 4th industrial revolution. If we don't gather ourselves together and prepare ourselves to jump into one of these fields, we are going to be left behind, and we are going to be asking people, please come and give us paychecks. That's not the York I see, and that's not the York that I am prepared to fight for, travel to the ends of the world for. So I hope that you will work with us, and that when my ecosystem builder, Skylar Yost, comes knocking on your door, you'll welcome him in and talk with him and help all the businesses of York. We can only stay this way for so long before we are no longer relevant. We need to change and improve to maintain our relevancy. Thank you. I was trying to get signaled so I could save time for questions. Do I have a minute?
You have 2 minutes.
I got 2 minutes. Quick questions. What the heck was he talking about? Next question.
What other neighborhoods beside your own have you targeted for job skills training?
Well, so our entire program is called the Neighborhood Ecosystem Development Initiative, and right now we are targeting the Salem Square neighborhood, and we are targeting the Hannah Penn neighborhood. And those are targeted right now because that's where the most resources are available. We're hoping that every 4 blocks we're going to be developing these ecosystems that bring in job training, tutoring, mentoring, medical assistance for moms, really everything that people need to get from the survival level up. I'm hoping to talk more with Hack about bringing some other kinds of training into the school district. I just made an agreement with Dr. Holmes that the City of York will be able to basically control the school buildings from at least 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. on weeknights. So they are basically our community centers, our trade school centers, anything that people can bring us that is reasonably organized, but everything from a martial arts teacher or a dance teacher, one individual, to somebody coming in and training people for the jobs of next year and the year after and the decade after. So right now I'm handling what I can, but the Hannah Penn and the Salem Square are the first 2 that we're working on. Yep. Anything else? Come on.
Where, if any, have you seen this type of idea work? Have you seen any blueprint to this plan that you're bringing to your city?
For the ecosystem building?
We found that looks like yours.
We just had, and this has to be really understood is that what I'm doing isn't for the city, well, it is for the city of York, but it can't be done in the city of York. It's really for the whole region. So we just had a wonderful speaker. Many of you were probably in attendance at the York County Community Foundation's annual event, annual meeting, and Stark County and the Northeast Ohio Coalition, they're really working towards this. They're really bringing communities together, trying to get them to network, doing the business dating game. How can we all be sitting around and seeing where we can collaborate, seeing where we can bring new ideas and new wealth into the community. It's interesting, as soon as I learned about this ecosystem building, Kauffman Foundation, if you're interested, are the ones that have really focused on this. But I started reading and it kept referencing Northeast Ohio, and no, that's interesting. But nowhere up until this time has the local government really been the one to push the ecosystem building forward. It has kind of come up and then slowly come up through the economic development corporations, and then kind of at the end, the politicians were like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. We kind of did it the other way around. We learned about this and have been pushing it from the mayor's office out. But ecosystem building, I mean, Silicon Valley is ecosystem building. Seattle, San Francisco, all of them are ecosystem building. And studying what was done there is kind of where the science came out of. So now the question is, what do we do with the knowledge that we got from them? Do we just yield everything and say, oh, everything's going to be Silicon Valley, everything's going to be Seattle, or do we take that technology or take that knowledge and use it for ourselves? I want to add one more thing. Has anybody in here heard of WeWork? The company WeWork. There are a couple of folks nodding their heads. Okay. WeWork is made $20 billion basically making dates between companies. You know, basically, I'm simplifying it, but it's so, WeWork sets up these co-working spaces, but not like as we think of them maybe in the York City kind of co-working, but these large co-working facilities where companies put small offices. And those people in those small offices start talking to each other. And out of those discussions exactly what I explained occurs, is that people either bring their companies together for projects or they spin off new companies. This is a company that made no products, but in 5 years went from $0 to $20 billion by introducing people to each other, by doing ecosystem building. Well, our ecosystem builder was the manager of the leading operation in the entire WeWorks family around the world. So he led the Chinatown facility, or the Chinatown location down in Washington, D.C. before he came to work for York. So he has an extreme amount of experience in this, and he is, I can't get into all his credentials, but he has been working on this stuff he's only 30 years old, but he's been working on it for the last 10 years. And he's really knowledgeable. So we do have some good examples. Thank you.